forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If I am may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock. On a mission, each one of us shares our own vision. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me.
Welcome back. It's your host, Gabe Morales. We've been covering Nuestra Familia members over the past 6 decades or so. We'll return to the R last names. I'll start off with Jack Happy Rice, who's out of Salinas. Happy had B number 14999. That's right, 3 nines. I show he was an NF member in the 1970s and was stabbed at San Quentin by ME members Ralph Mata, Gabby Baeza, and I believe Green Eyes Lopez, all affiliated with the Florencia gang and all members of the Mexican Mafia, at San Quentin on July 22nd, 1972. Jack ended up being killed by the NF on July 18th, 1976, when he was out on the streets. He had a brother named Paul, aka Chato, who had B number 64125, who was also affiliated with the NF, but dropped out after his brother was killed. It's my understanding that Happy's wife, Gloria, had witnessed her husband's murder, and she herself was killed on December 31st, 1976, for giving testimony against the NF in that case. There was a Greg Droopy Rico out of Eastside San Ho. He had C number 70083. I show that he was at San Quentin in 1983 through 84, and I believe was shot by a CDC tower officer. I recall this guy very clearly at C facility in the early 90s. He was considered to be a maestro, and I don't think they caught it until I overheard them, but he was talking to another Northern Structure maestro. I remember him and Droopy talking about writing to some girls, and the other guy told Droopy, throw some of that secret shit on them. They always go for that as a way to entice the girl into a romantic relationship. That's supposed to be a no-no. But as I said before, a lot of times these guys don't follow the rules. I show that he was moved to Pelican Bay State Prison shortly after that incident occurred and later became a dropout. I last had him documented at Corcoran SATF in 2012. And I show he is currently housed at Corcoran State Prison, being 58 years of age. There was Rick Sundown Riley from Santa Maria. He was an NF member in the 1970s and was very active at DVI. Understand he often provided the NF shanks, and sometimes would get those shanks from the Africanos, the BGF. I believe he paroled, but then came back with H number 75157. I understand that he was stabbed around 2009 and paroled in 2010. Once he got out, he wrote a book called Thief on the Cross, in which he claims to be a reformed sinner, such as the 2 thieves that were crucified next to Jesus. I don't know about that. He has some good stories, but sometimes they sound a little off to me. And Rick Sundown Riley recently passed. And who am I to judge? As they say, only God can judge you. There was David Bandit, aka Wicked Rios, out of San Ho. I show he had C number 41912 and was an NF enforcer in the 1980s. I recall this guy very clearly also from C Yard around the time I started working there in 1987. And I remember there was a lot of NF dropouts that he ran with. And I remember several Norteño youngsters saying that he used to be a real badass back in the day. He may have been related to Felipe Bruiser Rios, also from San Ho, who had B number 37309. He was an NF member at CTF Soledad in 1971. Then, I believe, was moved to DVI around 1972. He was considered to be a high-ranking captain in the new NF military structure by 1973 and continued in that capacity, and he is mentioned in several old reports that I have, but had dropped out by 1978. Then there is Robert Easter Bunny, aka Rabbit Rios, out of San Jose. And all these Rioses, I believe, are related. I show he had B number 908308. I show he was housed at CIM in 1978, but had paroled by 1979. He was returned in 1981, I believe, on C number 34738, but had paroled by 1983. He then returned, was housed at Old Folsom Prison in 1985 through 1986, when the MA ran that institution, but he was known as holding his own. He paroled in 1987, but had parole violations in the late 1980s through 1990s. I showed that he was involved in the hit of Robert Bobby Jasso, who was a San Jose bouncer who had disrespected Lucky Shelton. But I show the Jasso hit was pegged on Santos Bad Boy Bernias and Joey Gonzalez, as mentioned in the 1991 RICO case. I show that he was popped for robberies in 1994, whereby he was given J number 25460. I show he was housed at San Quentin in 1996 and was at the Santa Clara County Jail in the year 2000. He then was moved to San Quentin in May of that year, when I believe he finally dropped out. It is my understanding then he joined Victory Outreach when he got out in 2006 and did work with that Reborn Christian Church that has a lot of former MA and Nuestra Familia members that attended. Robert Rios was found dead in June of 2020, and some people state it may have been due to foul play, which would be interesting to me because usually the prison gangs will leave you alone if you join Victory Outreach, as long as you haven't debriefed and as long as you're not still involved in criminal activities. There was Alfred also Rivas out of the Fresno area. I show he had B number 583333 and was an NF lieutenant in the mid-1970s. Also understand that he would often make dope runs from the Gilroy area, which was an NF stronghold ran by Black Bob Vasquez. I show that he paroled in August 1976, but came back into custody and was paroled again in November of 76. He then returned in April 1977, where I believe he continued to operate as a shot caller at DVI. I show he paroled in February of 1979, but then was returned to custody in the summer of 1980, when he was housed at CMF and CIM, and was considered to be a dropout by that time. There was Alex, a.k.a. Boogie, a.k.a. Blackie Rivera, out of Azusa. I show that he was involved with the NF in the early 1970s under B number 38892. I show he was involved in the killing of an Aryan Brotherhood associate by the name of Robert Console on October 21st, 1975 at DVI. He continued to be housed at DVI in 1977 and was validated as being NF in 1979. I understand that he was hit at Vacaville in 1987 and was considered a DO by that time. I show that he was housed at CMC in the year 2012, but is currently not in custody. There was Frank, a.k.a. Kiki, a.k.a. Pancho Rivera, out of San Juan, but I also show had ties to Tucson, Arizona. I show he was NF in the 1980s under C number 15863. I show he was first incarcerated in CDC at the California Rehabilitation Center in Norco in 1979. Then show he was released but got popped for a burg in 1980, whereby he was given C number 15863. I show he paroled in 1981 but came back on a theft in 82. He then paroled in 85, but was rearrested and escaped from the Sonoma County Jail in August of 1985. I showed then he paroled in May 1987, but had several parole violations in the late 80s through early 90s. I show he got popped for a burg in 1996, whereby he was given K number 44424 and paroled and had several violations after that. I show he was housed at San Quentin in the year 2002 and was also housed at Santa Clara County Jail in 2004 and 2005. And I lost track of him after the year 2011. There was a John Local Man Rivera out of Merced, west side, I do believe. I showed that he was Nuestra Raza in the 1990s and had P number 20671. I understand that he was convicted in the murder of a guy named Ray Zavala. I show he was at Corcoran in 2002. Eventually, I understand he was subject to a removal, but was considered a DO by that time and had parole by the year 2009. There was a Jose Rivera Para, who went by Güero, and I understand was related to the Blancos from San Juan. I understand Güero actually was out of Milpitas and was affiliated with the Northern Structure in the 1980s under D number 55642. Understand the feds went after him eventually, and he was given BOP number 05967-097 when he was housed at Victorville in the year 2003, Atwater in 2004, Lompoc in 2006, Oxford in 2014, and I understand was released in the year 2015. There was a Brian Turtle Robledo out of San Juan. I understand he was very close to longtime NF member Sleepy Esquivel, and that Turtle was incarcerated for a homicide under J number 50205. Understand that he was validated as being West Raza in 1995, was housed at Pelican Bay State Prison the year 2000 through 2012. I show he was at Pleasant Valley State Prison after that when they were releasing guys out of the SHU when he was indicted on a RICO case. I show that Brian Turtle Robledo is currently housed at the ADX Max in Florence, Colorado, where many NF shot callers are located. He is scheduled for release in June 2027. There was a Joaquin Chino Robles out of Santa Barbara, aka Santa Bruta. I show that he was an NF member in the 1970s under B number 66210, when I believe he was housed at DVI. I show he got released on that, but came back into custody under C number 99633, and I show was housed at CIM in the latter part of 1991. He then got released on that, but came back into custody under H numbers in Henry 15464, and I show was housed at Wasco State Prison in 1994. He then got out on that, but came back under another CDC number of P as in Paul 14891. I show he was housed at San Quentin in the year 2003, but currently shows not in custody. I'll briefly mention Roxanne Robles, aka Roxy, who Sundown Riley, that I mentioned earlier in this episode, states was his cousin. Roxy was the girlfriend of Michael Manasosa, as seen here in this picture. And Joaquin Chino Robles, who I just spoke about previously, may have been her brother. There was David Serdino Rocha out of Tracy. He was a well-known rapper in the 1990s, perhaps the most well-known Norteño rapper, especially after he appeared on the Gun CD that was put out by Worrell Grattan. In 2001, Rocha was arrested under Operation Black Widow and charged with one count of conspiracy to conduct the affairs of an enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. While he was in prison, he found God and became a reborn Christian. Rocha was released in January 2010 from the federal BOP and started a ministry called House of Rest. I highly encourage you, especially if you're a former gang member, to check out some of his sermons. This guy knows what he's talking about. I interviewed Rocha on this show if you want to catch that. God bless you, Pastor Rocha. There was Matthew, a.k.a. Maton Rocha, out of Salinas East Market. He came from a family that had well-known ties to the NF for many decades. I believe his mother's name was Mary, who was known as a dope dealer, and I forgot to mention was allegedly robbed by Stork Perez, who I talked about a few episodes ago, in 1985. Matt was involved with the Northern Structure in the 1980s through 1990s when he had K number 34251. I show he was housed at Corcoran in 1992, and his name was brought up during the Operation Black Widow case. I show he was continuing to be involved in drug sales, which his family was well known to be involved in, and was housed at San Quentin in the year 2000. I then show that he was housed at Pelican Bay SHU for many years, but was finally let out when they kicked out most of the prison gang members out of the security housing units, and was housed at Pleasant Valley State Prison, where he aligned himself with Baby Joker Cabrera and Donald Duck Moran, all who are loyal to the federal faction. Understand that Maton was hit in the year 2019 and was placed in protective custody, and I've been told has since disassociated himself from the organization. He had a couple sisters, Lisa and Sophie Rocha. I'm not sure if Lisa did any time, but I believe Sophie did under X number 88838, and her name is brought up during Operation Black Widow as well. as she dated several prominent NF members or associates and knew a lot about the organization. Some say too much. There's also an Antonio Rocha Guerrero, who was affiliated with the NF in the 1970s under B number 53085. Understand that he was involved in an attempted murder on Pistol Pete Gutierrez in 1976 when he had paroled. I also understand that he was involved in the 187 of Flavio Garza on February 28, 1977 with Ezequiel Conejo Lopez. He then was returned to CDC in December 1977, but was only validated by CDC in 1980, whereby I believe he debriefed. I show he was shipped out of state for a while, but then was housed at Salinas Valley State Prison in the year 2012, and has been housed at the California Men's Colony for many years now, being 72 years of age. There was Robert, a.k.a. Babalu Rocha, also out of Salinas. I believe all these Rochas are related. I show that he was an NF member in the early 1970s under B number 24952. And I show was involved in the homicide of a Mike Rodriguez on August 25th, 1973 at DBI, but I understand had dropped out by the late 1970s. And so I'm going to have to stop right there, and you can be reassured that I'll be working hard on the next episode to bring you more fire content. For now, this is Gabe Morales signing off for Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians. If I go forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If they may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock. On a mission, each one of us shares our own vision.